So if you think a home aquarium is just, this peaceful slice of zen with bubbling water and colorful fish, you probably never look closely at the brutal math of survival that's actually playing out inside one.
Right. It is definitely not all just glowing lights and plastic plants.
No, absolutely not. And today, we are taking a deep dive into a very specific, deeply personal slice of internet hobbyist lore.
Yes, a very revealing piece of text.
Yeah, our source material today is a single blog post. It was published today, actually, July 27, 2026, and it's titled Notes on Fishkeeping Part 299, a third attempt at pairing polar parrot cichlids.
Part 299, that number alone tells you a lot.
It really does. It's written by a hobbyist named Ang. And, okay, let's unpack this because I want you, the listener, to think of this tank not as a piece of living room furniture, but as, basically a high-stakes, glass-walled reality show.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, because it's a show where one wrong guess means immediate death.
That framing gets right to the core of what we're looking at today because, on the surface, analyzing a casual blog post about a fish tank might seem trivial to some people.
For sure, just someone's pet diary, right?
Exactly. But Ang's post reveals this immense, often punishing dedication that's required in aquatic husbandry.
Punishing is definitely the right word for it.
It is. By isolating this single brief entry post, number 299, we gain profound insight into the unpredictable mechanics of managing a captive ecosystem.
Right.
We are essentially stripping away the romanticism of the hobby to examine the raw biological imperatives at play here.
So to really grasp the tension of Ang's current predicament in post 299, we have to rewind a bit. We need to analyze the tragedy that basically kicked off this specific narrative arc.
Yes, the first spawn.
Right. The post opens by referencing Ang's first ever polar parrot cichlid spawn. And it is honestly a bloodbath.
It's incredibly grim.
Ang writes that during this first attempt, the female fish did not survive after the spawn started. And out of the entire reproductive event, Ang only managed to save a single surviving juvenile fish.
Just one.
Just one single fry.
What's fascinating here is how the text immediately confronts us with the reality of biological reproduction in a closed environment. Spawning is often romanticized, right?
Yeah, like, oh, look, new life.
Exactly. But biologically, it is a massive physiological trauma. For a female cichlid, generating and laying hundreds of eggs depletes calcium, fat reserves, and heavily taxes her immune system.
Wow, okay, so it's not just a matter of laying eggs and swimming away to relax.
No, not at all. The physical toll is actually breaking down her body from the inside. It fundamentally compromises her.
That's intense.
And then you add to that the aggressive driving behavior of the male.
Driving behavior, what's that?
Well, he constantly harasses her to ensure she deposits all her eggs. He's relentless. In the wild, she could, swim into some rocks to hide and recover.
Get out of his line of sight.
Exactly. But in a glass box, she cannot escape him. Furthermore, the sudden release of all that biological matter, reproductive fluids, decaying unfertilized eggs that can cause an immediate ammonia spike in the water.
Oh, which is highly toxic, right?
Very toxic. So the female didn't just passively pass away. The act of spawning itself, combined with the spatial limitations of the tank, was a terminal event.
Man. And the sheer loss of the offspring is staggering, too. Like, Ang mentions getting down to one single survivor.
Out of potentially hundreds.
Right. If I'm putting myself in Ang's shoes, if you as a hobbyist only get one surviving fry out of hundreds and you lose the mother in your very first attempt, the psychological toll must be immense.
It would make most people quit on the spot.
Seriously. Like, what kind of resilience does it take to keep going? To not just, throw a towel over the tank, list the filter on the internet, and just walk away completely?
It requires a profound pivot in mindset, I think. You have to shift from being a pet owner to being a field biologist.
Oh, that makes sense. Taking the emotion out of it.
Or at least channeling it. You have to be willing to look at a devastating failure as a critical data point rather than a personal defeat.
Right, a data point.
Because Ang understands that in nature, high mortality rates are just built into the reproductive strategy of these fish. They produce hundreds of offspring specifically because most will be eaten or succumb to the elements.
So you expect losses.
Yes, but when that happens in your living room, the burden falls entirely on you to analyze the water chemistry, the hiding spaces, the aggression levels, to determine the exact point of failure.
And Ang clearly treats it as a data point because they do keep going. Following the tragic loss of that first female, the tank was left with this lone survivor.
The single male.
Right. And the passage of time significantly transformed this remaining fish, which sets the stage for the current drama.
It's all about maturation.
Yeah, Aang notes that many moons have passed since that first disastrous spawn, and during that time, this lone male has grown significantly.
He's changed physically and behaviorally.
Exactly. Aang specifically describes him as having grown larger and bulkier, and notes that he is now actively searching for a female to start another spawn.
Which is a dangerous phase.
Yeah. So what does this all mean? It's basically like, think of a widower who has spent the last several months exclusively hitting the gym, bulking up, and is now just restlessly pacing the house, ready to start over.
That's a great way to picture it. And the underlying biology of that pacing is where the real danger lies.
How so?
We are looking at a behavioral shift inextricably linked to physical maturation. As this male gets bulkier, his testosterone levels are peaking. His whole sensory world is fundamentally shifting.
So he's not just a cute pet anymore.
Exactly. A juvenile fish views the tank as a place to find food and avoid predators. But a sexually mature, bulky male, he views every cubic inch of that water as a territory to be claimed, defended, and utilized for reproduction.
The whole environment just morphs into a pressure cooker.
Completely. Because his physical size dictates his territorial claim. In a natural lake, a male cichlid might claim a territory of, say, 3 or 4 square feet around a specific rock formation.
Okay, so a small bubble.
Right. But in a standard home aquarium, 3 or 4 square feet is the entire tank.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the glass boundaries artificialize his instinct. The tank is no longer just a habitat. It is an active kill zone for anyone who doesn't serve his biological imperative.
Which brings us to a massive, catastrophic miscalculation.
The second attempt.
Right, because that male's new size, his bulk, and his intense readiness to spawn directly triggered a disaster during Aang's next move.
It really highlights the danger of the closed system.
It does. So, in the previous attempt, before this current post, Aang tried to introduce what they believed was a female polar parrot cichlid. The goal was to provide a mate for this pacing male.
Which seems logical on the surface.
But there was a fatal case of mistaken identity. It turned out the fish Aang introduced was not a female at all. It was a smaller male.
And in the confined geometry of an aquarium, an error of that magnitude has immediate, irreversible consequences.
Aang writes that the poor fish didn't survive the following day. It was over overnight.
That's swift and brutal.
Aang suspects the smaller male fish couldn't survive the aggressiveness of the existing fish, explicitly calling the original fish a territorial and large existing alpha male.
Those specific words matter.
Yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting to me, and I need to stop you for a second to challenge something here.
Go for it.
Aang is writing post-299. They are clearly deeply invested in this hobby. How does an experienced hobbyist drop a male into a tank thinking it's a female?
That is the big question.
Right. Shouldn't there be an obvious visual cue? Like biology usually gives us brighter colors or different fin shapes to work with. How do you mess that up?
Well, that is the assumption most people make, but cichlid biology is incredibly deceptive. We aren't dealing with animals that wear color-coded name tags.
Right, obviously, but still.
What you are referring to is sexual dimorphism, distinct visual differences between sexes. Many cichlid species, including polar parrots, display zero sexual dimorphism until the exact moment of breeding.
Wait, zero. So they look exactly identical.
They are practically identical, but it gets even more complicated than that.
I mean, how could it be more complicated than identical?
Subdominant males possess a biological defense mechanism called phenotypic plasticity.
Phenotypic plasticity. Okay.
What is that? When a smaller, weaker male is in the presence of a massive dominant alpha, it will intentionally suppress its own male physical traits.
You're kidding.
No, it will dull its colors, round out its fins, and essentially mimic a female. It is an evolutionary survival tactic designed to signal to the alpha, I am not a threat to your territory or your mating rights.
That is wild. It's literally wearing a disguise to avoid getting murdered.
But precisely, it's a camouflage of gender. So Aang likely looked at this new fish at the store, saw the suppressed traits, and made a highly educated, yet ultimately fatal, guess.
Wow. But the disguise didn't work. I mean, the alpha saw right through it once it hit the water in the home tank.
It seems that way. Or the stress of the new environment caused the smaller male to accidentally drop the disguise.
Oh, like he let his guard down.
Exactly. Even a momentary flare of a gill plate or a slight shift in posture can instantly communicate its true gender to the resident alpha.
And then it's game over.
Right. Let's unpack the brutal consequence of this error and the language Aang uses. By choosing the words territorial, aggressiveness, and alpha male, Aang shifts the narrative from a pet-keeping journal to a study in combat ecology.
Yeah, combat ecology is a great way to put it. When that smaller male was dropped into the water, he wasn't just entering a new home. He was trespassing on sovereign territory.
Think of the aquarium as a chessboard where the pieces are restricted to a tiny enclosed board.
Okay, I'm with you.
In a natural river or lake system, a smaller male would simply execute the most basic survival strategy, evasion.
Right, just swim away.
Exactly. He would swim out of the alpha's line of sight, find a less contested territory, and survive. But in a glass box, evasion is mathematically impossible.
There's nowhere to hide.
There is no way. The territory is finite. So the punishment for the hobbyist's mistake is swift and absolute, because the smaller male is continually forced back into the alpha strike zone until it succumbs to physical trauma or sheer exhaustion.
It's a stark reminder for you, the listener, that while we curate these tanks to look beautiful with little glowing lights and artificial plants, the brutal rules of the wild still apply.
They don't disappear just because the tank is in a living room.
No, they are just compressed into 30 gallons of water. Nature doesn't care about the aesthetic of your house.
Not even a little bit.
So we arrive at today, the third attempt. Aang has learned a harsh lesson about territorial aggression and the absolute danger of gender identification.
Right, you can't just trust your eyes anymore.
Yeah, so they aren't just trying the exact same thing again. They are adapting their strategy.
We are seeing the evolution of a hobbyist's methodology here. They are shifting from simple pairing to advanced risk mitigation.
So this time, Aang introduces 2 new fish to the tank, hoping both are females. The strategy here is twofold.
Which is incredibly smart.
It really is. First, they're obviously hoping to get the gender right, but the fascinating part is the backup plan.
The contingency.
Yeah, Aang reasons that if the gender identification is incorrect again, like if one or both of these new fish turn out to be subdominant males in disguise, having 2 new fish will serve a very specific purpose.
Right.
Aang writes it will keep the male fish occupied for a while.
It is a brilliantly calculated move rooted in behavioral psychology. Aang is leveraging a concept known in aquatic biology as target dispersion.
Target dispersion, I like that. It's like bringing 2 friends to a tense negotiation in a potentially hostile environment.
That's a very good analogy.
It diffuses the intense focus and aggression of the resident alpha. Instead of one target absorbing 100% of the bulky male's aggression, the attention is mathematically split.
Exactly. The cognitive load on the alpha male becomes a tool for the hobbyist.
How does that work cognitively for the fish?
Well, fish possess a limited capacity to process visual stimuli during a territorial defense. When presented with a single intruder, the alpha locks on and relentlessly pursues.
Tunnel vision.
Precisely. But when presented with multiple intruders, his targeting system is overloaded. He chases one, turns, sees the other, and his aggression resets.
Oh, so he can't commit to one target.
Right. This dilution of potential violence buys crucial time. It gives the new fish time to find the layout of the tank, time to acclimate to the water chemistry, and most importantly, it gives Aang time to observe their behaviors and intervene with a net if things turn violent.
Aang notes that initial observations indicate these 2 new fish are very likely females, judging from their interactions with the alpha. They aren't getting instantly shredded, which is good.
It is good, yes.
But as we've learned, initial interactions aren't guarantees.
Far from it. As we discussed with phenotypic plasticity, a fish suppressing its gender can maintain the illusion for weeks until a specific hormonal trigger forces it to reveal itself.
Man, weeks of tension. Which leads us to the current state of affairs. The waiting game.
The hardest part of the hobby?
Truly. Because even with this brilliant 2-fold strategy to diffuse aggression, nature still has to take its course. And that presents Aang with an entirely new logistical puzzle to solve.
Yes, because success brings its own incredibly complex set of complications.
Aang admits in the post that it is too early to tell if the plan actually worked. They write that they must wait and observe for the time being.
Patience is key.
But here's the kicker. If both fish are indeed females, Aang predicts that one will bond with the male to initiate pairing. That's the entire goal of Part 299, right?
That's the ultimate objective, yes.
But crucially, Aang already has a plan for the leftover fish. They state that by the time the pairing happens, the unbonded female, the third wheel, basically will have to be moved to another tank.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of ecosystem management, this single sentence is incredibly revealing.
Right. It shows so much experience.
It demonstrates the sheer foresight required in this hobby. Achieving a successful pairing is not the finish line, It is the catalyst for an entirely new wave of violence.
Wait, why is that? If they are happily paired off, shouldn't the tank finally calm down? Like they found love, everybody chill out.
You would think so, but no. The biological shift that occurs when cichlids pair is dramatic. Their hormones pivot instantly from courtship to parental care.
Okay.
And parental care in cichlids is fiercely, violently proactive. They do not just protect the eggs once they are laid.
What do?
They establish a perimeter to ensure no other biological entity can even get close to the future nesting site. They become a highly coordinated tactical unit focused entirely on neutralizing threats.
A tactical unit, wow. And to a newly paired cichlid couple, what exactly constitutes a threat?
Literally everything that isn't their mate.
Yep.
Everything. In the wild, they would clear a perimeter of maybe 10 feet. Any fish that enters that radius is chased off. But in our glass box scenario, the perimeter they want to clear is larger than the tank itself.
Oh no, because the tank is so small.
Exactly. Therefore, the unbonded female, the third wheel, transforms instantly from a potential mate into a mortal enemy simply by existing within their line of sight.
So that successful bonding will inevitably create a scenario that is just as dangerous as the alpha male dropping his disguise.
It's the exact same level of danger, just a different biological trigger.
So if Aang doesn't remove her, she will be systematically hunted down by the newly formed couple.
Yes. Aang's proactive plan to remove that extra female illustrates a deep, hard-won understanding that a peaceful tank is always a carefully curated illusion.
It's totally artificial.
It requires constant, active intervention. You have to be 2 steps ahead of the biological processes you are trying to encourage. You cannot just react to the violence. You have to preempt it by altering the environment.
This brings the stakes right back to you, the listener, because this is the true reality of the hobby. It's constant vigilance.
It really is a second job.
Yeah, you don't just set it and forget it. You don't just put the fish in the water, sprinkle some flakes, and walk away to watch TV.
Well, absolutely not.
You have to literally have a second entirely separate, fully functioning ecosystem, an evacuation tank ready and waiting with the correct water temperature and biological filtration, just in case your primary plan is a little too successful.
It requires a massive infrastructure of support. The commitment isn't just to the one tank you see glowing in the living room.
Right.
It's to the entire hidden process of managing their lives, mitigating their aggressions, and safely navigating their reproductive cycles.
Let's step back and just summarize what we've unpacked here today. We started with a short blog post, part 299 in a series, about trying to breed polar parrot cichlids.
A seemingly simple premise.
Yeah, but what we found is a narrative about Aang's relentless pursuit of this goal through extreme adversity. We've seen a hobbyist weather the biological tragedy of a spawn that broke down a mother fish's body, leaving only one surviving fry.
A very harsh reality.
Then we've tracked the intimidating hormone-driven growth of a surviving lone alpha male, turning a glass box into a finite kill zone.
The consequences of maturation in captivity.
Exactly. And we analyzed a fatal miscalculation in gender identification, unpacking the fascinating biology of phenotypic plasticity, where, subdominant males disguise themselves to survive, only to fail in a closed environment where evasion is mathematically impossible.
Because there's nowhere to hide.
Right. And now we're watching a highly strategic, risk-managed third attempt play out in real time, utilizing target dispersion to diffuse aggression, complete with a tactical evacuation strategy for a potential third wheel.
It's masterful ecosystem management.
It really is. This isn't just a story about fish for you to passively listen to. It's a deep exploration of learning from devastating, heartbreaking failures and shouldering the heavy responsibility of managing the fragile environments we create.
Aang's 299th post is a powerful testament to what true expertise looks like in practice. Because true expertise isn't about never making mistakes.
No, nobody is perfect.
Right. It's not about achieving a perfect, harmonious tank on the first try. It is about how you adjust your strategies when nature absolutely refuses to cooperate with your plans.
When nature fights back.
Yes. It is about respecting the animals enough to learn the underlying mechanics of their behavior, their biological clocks, their spatial needs, their survival tactics, rather than expecting them to follow the artificial rules of your living room. Aang embodies that deeply by treating every failure as a lesson in combat ecology.
It's an incredible level of dedication to these creatures. And, it leaves me with one final thought, something for you to mull over long after this deep dive is finished.
Oh, I'm curious.
Well, we started by picturing that relaxing glass box, The gentle, bubbling filter, the little plastic treasure
The
chest.
standard image.
Right. But if hobbyists like Ang are creating these confined artificial ecosystems in their homes, where fish are forced into these high-stakes territorial dramas without the physical ability to swim away, are aquarists simply observers of nature, trying to bring a tiny piece of the wild indoors?
That's a profound question.
Or, in managing every single variable from the chemical makeup of the water to the precise number of potential mates, are they playing the role of a somewhat unpredictable deity, shaping the destinies and literal survival of these creatures inside their glass-walled reality shows?
It really makes you reconsider the power dynamic of the hobby.
It totally does. So just think about that the next time you see a tranquil blue light glowing in a quiet room.